On a moonlit night in 1180, as cherry blossoms drifted like snow through the spring air, a slender figure approached the bridge. The warrior was small, almost feminine in build, playing a haunting melody on a bamboo flute. At his side hung a sword that would complete Musashibō Benkei's collection. The giant monk stepped forward, his massive naginata gleaming in the moonlight. "Hold, samurai. None may pass without surrendering their blade to me. This is the extraordinary story of Musashibō Benkei. From his supernatural birth that terrified even his own father, to his legendary duel on Gojō Bridge and the impossible moment when death itself could not make him surrender. A tale of superhuman endurance with honor. Our story begins in 1155, in an age when Japan bled from endless civil wars, and Buddhist monasteries had become fortresses as much as places of worship. In the province of Ki, at the Kumano shrine, a child was born who would defy every natural law. The midwives gasped in terror. The infant emerged not after 9 months, but 18, twice the natural gestation. He possessed the body of a 3-year-old, with shoulder-length hair and fully formed teeth. His skin bore an otherworldly darkness, and his eyes blazed with an intensity that seemed almost demonic. His father, the shrine administrator, took one look at this supernatural child and declared him the spawn of demons. In his horror, he attempted to kill the infant, but the boy's aunt spirited him away, naming him Oniwaka, the demon child. By age 7, Oniwaka towered over grown men. By 17, he stood over 6.5 feet tall, a giant in an age when most Japanese barely reached 5 feet. His strength was legendary. Witnesses claimed he could crush a man's skull with his bare hands, or uproot trees as easily as pulling weeds. But it was not just his physical presence that terrified people. It was his face, his features so fierce, so unnaturally intimidating, that seasoned warriors would drop their weapons and flee at the mere sight of him. Desperate to tame this wild child, his guardian sent him to the sacred Mount Hiei, home to the powerful Enryaku-ji temple complex. Here, among 3,000 buildings housing warrior monks known as Sohai, young Oniwaka would learn the ways of Buddhism. But the boy was untamable. While he excelled at memorizing sutras and Buddhist philosophy, his violent nature could not be suppressed. He terrorized other acolytes, destroyed temple property, and showed such reckless disregard for monastic discipline that the order eventually expelled him. Undeterred, the young giant performed his own tonshu ceremony, declaring himself a fully ordained monk. He took the name Musashibō Benkei and set out into the world, carrying 7 deadly weapons strapped to his massive frame: a naginata, a tetsubo iron club, an axe, and an arsenal of tools that doubled as instruments of war. Benkei made his way to Kyoto, the imperial capital, where he established himself at the Gojō Bridge. Here, he would wait each night, challenging every samurai who dared to cross. His goal was audacious beyond measure: to collect 1,000 swords from defeated warriors, creating the ultimate trophy of martial supremacy. Night after night, month after month, Benkei stood his ground. Seasoned samurai, proud daimyo, legendary swordsmen, all fell before his terrible strength and skill. His collection grew: 100 swords, 300, 500, 800, 999. He needed just one more. On a moonlit night in 1180, as cherry blossoms drifted like snow through the spring air, a slender figure approached the bridge. The warrior was small, almost feminine in build, playing a haunting melody on a bamboo flute. At his side hung a sword that would complete Benkei's collection. The giant monk stepped forward, his massive naginata gleaming in the moonlight. "Hold, samurai. None may pass without surrendering their blade to me." The young warrior, who called himself Ushiwakamaru, simply smiled and drew his sword. What followed was unlike any battle Benkei had ever fought. Where he expected to crush another opponent with brute force, he found himself facing a warrior who moved like wind itself. Ushiwakamaru leaped over Benkei's sweeping attacks, danced around his massive frame, and struck with precision that seemed almost supernatural. For the first time in his life, the invincible Benkei was defeated. But instead of humiliation, the giant monk felt something he had never experienced: awe. This small warrior possessed a nobility, a spiritual strength that transcended physical power. In that moment, Benkei understood his true purpose. Dropping to his knees, the fearsome warrior monk pledged his life to serve this remarkable young man, who revealed his true identity: Minamoto no Yoshitsune, son of the great warrior Minamoto no Yoshitomo, and destined to become one of Japan's greatest military commanders. The year 1180 marked the beginning of the Genpei War, a 5-year conflict that would reshape Japan forever. The Taira clan, led by the powerful Taira no Kiyomori, had dominated the imperial court for decades. But when Prince Mochihito issued a call for the Minamoto clan to rise against Taira tyranny, the stage was set for a war that would consume the nation. Yoshitsune and Benkei fought side by side through every major battle of this epic conflict. At Ichi-no-Tani, Benkei's strength proved crucial when he found a local guide to lead Yoshitsune's forces down an impossible cliff face, achieving complete tactical surprise. At the naval battle of Yashima, the warrior monk's presence on the battlefield inspired terror in Taira forces. But it was at Dan-no-ura, the final battle of the war, where their partnership reached its zenith. As Minamoto forces closed in for the decisive victory, Benkei stood at Yoshitsune's side, watching as the Taira clan, including the child Emperor Antoku, chose death over dishonor, drowning themselves in the churning waters of the Shimonoseki Strait. The Minamoto had won. Japan was theirs. Yoshitsune had proven himself the greatest military tactician of his generation, and Benkei had been his faithful shadow through every triumph. But victory would soon turn to betrayal. Minamoto no Yoritomo, Yoshitsune's elder brother and the new shogun of Japan, watched his siblings' growing fame with increasing paranoia. Where others saw a loyal brother and brilliant general, Yoritomo saw a potential rival whose popularity with the people and the army posed a threat to his own power. The imperial court, grateful for Yoshitsune's victories, granted him titles and honors without consulting Yoritomo. This perceived slight ignited the shogun's jealousy into murderous rage. In 1185, just months after their greatest triumph, Yoritomo declared his own brother a traitor and outlaw. Yoshitsune and Benkei fled north, seeking refuge with the powerful Fujiwara clan in the remote province of Mutsu. For 4 years, they lived as hunted men, constantly moving, always watching for Yoritomo's assassins. During this time, their bond deepened beyond that of master and retainer. They became true brothers, united not by blood, but by something stronger: absolute loyalty and mutual respect. Benkei's devotion to Yoshitsune became legendary, inspiring stories that would be told for centuries. In 1189, political pressure from Yoritomo finally forced Fujiwara no Yasuhira, the young lord of Mutsu, to betray his guests. Despite his father's dying wish to protect Yoshitsune, Yasuhira succumbed to the shogun's threats and assembled an army of 500 warriors to capture the fugitive general. On June 15th, as morning mist clung to the valleys around Hiraizumi, Yasuhira's forces surrounded the Koromogawa residence, where Yoshitsune and his small band of followers had taken shelter. Yoshitsune, now 30 years old and weary from years of exile, understood that his time had come. There would be no escape, no last-minute rescue, no miraculous victory against impossible odds. There was only one path left that would preserve his honor: seppuku, ritual suicide. But the ritual required time, and Yasuhira's soldiers were already at the gates. "My lord," Benkei said, his massive frame filling the doorway, "grant me this final service. Allow me to buy you the time you need." Yoshitsune looked into the eyes of the man who had served him faithfully for 9 years, through triumph and disaster, victory and exile. "Old friend," he whispered, "I could ask for no greater gift." Musashibō Benkei walked slowly to the narrow bridge that led to the main gate of the residence. At 54 years old, his massive frame still struck terror into the hearts of enemies. He wore his traditional monk's robes over battle armor, his legendary naginata gleaming in his hands. Behind him, in the inner sanctum, Yoshitsune began the solemn ritual that would preserve his honor and deny Yoritomo the satisfaction of capturing him alive. Before him, 500 of Mutsu's finest warriors hesitated at the bridge's entrance. They knew the stories. They had heard the legends. This was Benkei, the demon monk who had never known defeat, the giant who could kill 12 men with a single sweep of his weapon. "Come then!" Benkei's voice thundered across the morning air. "Which of you brave warriors wishes to be the first to die?" The first samurai to step onto the bridge was a veteran of many battles, confident in his skill. Benkei's naginata swept in a perfect arc, and the man's head flew from his shoulders before he could draw his sword. The second warrior met the same fate, then the third, the fourth. For what seemed like hours, Benkei held the bridge alone. His naginata became a whirlwind of death, cutting down any warrior brave enough to face him. Bodies piled up at the bridge's entrance, yet still more came. Contemporary accounts claim he killed over 300 trained soldiers in that final battle. Whether the exact number is accurate matters less than the truth it represents. One man, fighting alone, holding back an entire army through sheer force of will and unmatched skill. As the morning wore on, Yasuhira's commanders realized the futility of direct assault. No warrior, no matter how skilled, could defeat this monster in single combat. They ordered their archers forward. The first volley of arrows struck Benkei's armor, most deflecting harmlessly off the steel plates, but some found gaps, piercing his arms, legs, and his torso. The giant monk staggered, but did not fall. A second volley followed, then a third. Arrows sprouted from Benkei's body like deadly flowers, yet still he stood, still he fought. His naginata continued its deadly work, cutting down any warrior who dared approach. The archers shot again and again. 10 arrows pierced Benkei's flesh, then 20, then 30. Blood flowed from countless wounds, staining his white monk's robes crimson. His movements became slower, more labored, but his spirit remained unbroken. Through sheer force of will, the dying giant continued to guard the bridge. Even as his life ebbed away, even as his vision blurred from blood loss, Benkei remained standing, a final defiant guardian protecting his master's honor. As the sun reached its zenith, something extraordinary happened. The arrows stopped flying, the attacking warriors fell back, staring in superstitious terror at the figure on the bridge. Benkei stood motionless, his massive frame upright, his hands still gripping his naginata. Arrows protruded from his body like the quills of some monstrous porcupine. Those who lived through it speak of over 300 shafts piercing his flesh. Yet there he stood, as immovable as a mountain, as eternal as the Buddha himself. The soldiers waited. Minutes passed. An hour. Still the giant monk did not move, did not fall, did not show any sign of life, yet neither did he collapse. Finally, one brave warrior crept forward, sword drawn, ready to strike the killing blow. As he approached, he realized the impossible truth that would echo through Japanese history for 8 centuries. Musashibō Benkei was already dead. He had died standing upright, his body so filled with arrows that they held him erect like a grotesque scaffold. His spirit had been so strong, his will so indomitable, that even death could not make him fall. He had achieved something no warrior before or since has accomplished. He had died without surrendering, without yielding, without giving ground. The phenomenon became known as Benkei no Tachi Ojo, the standing death of Benkei. When Yasuhira's forces finally dared to enter the inner compound, they found Yoshitsune's body, having completed his ritual suicide with perfect honor. Benkei had succeeded in his final mission. He had bought his master the time needed to die, as a samurai should. In the 8 centuries since that June morning in 1189, the story of Benkei's standing death has become more than history. It has become the ultimate symbol of loyalty in Japanese culture. The phrase, Benkei no Tachi Ojo, entered the language as a metaphor for any situation where one cannot move forward or backward. trapped by circumstances yet refusing to yield. But Benkei's legacy extends far beyond linguistic metaphor. In a culture that prizes loyalty above all other virtues, his final stand represents the absolute pinnacle of devotion. He embodies the samurai ideal that death is preferable to dishonor, that a true warrior serves his master beyond the grave itself. Today, statues of Benkei stand throughout Japan, from the train station in his supposed birthplace of Tanabe to shrines across the archipelago. His story has inspired countless works of literature, theater, film, and art. But perhaps the most remarkable aspect of Benkei's story is how it transcends the boundaries of history and legend. Whether every detail is historically accurate matters less than the truth it represents. That human loyalty and determination can achieve the impossible, that the spirit can triumph even when the body fails, that some bonds are stronger than death itself. In an age of shifting loyalties and temporary commitments, Benkei stands as an eternal reminder of what it means to serve something greater than oneself. His standing death was not just a physical impossibility, it was a spiritual victory that echoes across the centuries.